Welcome to the apartment drumming series. This series is all about helping you practice better and more conveniently wherever you live. It's really important that we drummers are able to practice consistently and refine our skills, which can be really tough on such a loud instrument. Today I'm going to show you around the practice kit that I'm currently using, as well as some of the acoustical room treatment I'm using to augment the quietness of the pads and cymbals. And we'll finish with some additional thoughts on keeping the peace with your neighbors if you live in an apartment or a townhome. This is really important stuff for us drummers if we want to get better at what we do, because we gotta practice. So let's get started. First off though, I just want to ask the question, what do you do to keep your practicing quiet? I moved into an apartment almost 2 years ago, and at first it really wrecked my practicing. I just wasn't practicing nearly as much as I used to, and so I built a really DIY practice kit. And so I actually made a video about that setup a while back, one of the first videos I posted back in November. I was using a cajon inside of its case as a practice kick drum, and I had some pads and some plastic cymbals. It was very DIY, but it got the job done. So since then, I'm still living in an apartment, and I decided to invest in some Aquarian Super Pads and Zildjian L80 Low Volume cymbals. This setup is extremely quiet. I set my drums up in the corner of this room here, and I start off with a layer of foam padding, like that stuff that you can get for a workout room. You can buy it at an athletic store or at Walmart or order it online, wherever. That's about 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. And so I laid that out first. And then I've got an additional mat that I put on top of that. And so I've got the foam plus a mat that helps get rid of the direct thumping of my feet, whether it's on the hi-hat or on the kick pedal. And so I don't have quite as much of that directly going through the floor to my neighbors below me. That definitely doesn't really do anything for actual low end coming from the kick, because it's just foam and carpet. But that's so minimal and it's so quiet because these pads work so well that I don't think that's an issue. I'm mainly trying to get rid of any of that direct stomping sound from my feet going through the floor, which a foam mat does a great job of doing. These pads are really cool. They fit snugly on the drums. They've got this rubber gasket around the edge that allows them to sit in there and not move. They're not going to spin around while you play them. There's no extraneous noise. They just sit firmly on there, and it's like it becomes part of the drum. Here's a closer look at the kick pad, which is a really thick piece of foam on some type of board that sits up against the head. And it's also got a heavier, thicker, more durable rubber section there in the middle where the beaters actually make contact. The cymbals are amazingly quiet. They're advertised to be 70 to 80% quieter than regular cymbals. All I can say about that is, sounds like it to me. They're incredibly quiet. You can hit them really hard and crash them, and it's a very quiet crash that you can just talk right over. Honestly, the loudest noise you can make with these is hitting the bell with the bead of the stick, or really hitting any part of it with the bead, because there's a strong attack. These have a nice attack, which is great because you can still analyze your playing and hear every intricacy of what you're playing on the ride or on the hi-hat, just without all the massive volume. And so you can be playing on the cymbal, hear what you're doing, hear that stick definition, and then get washy or crash on it, and it's not very loud at all. So I've got the quiet pads, the quiet cymbals, I've got the floor mat here, but I also did a little bit of wall treatment in this room, which does nothing really for soundproofing. This is just to absorb some high frequencies that are annoying and get rid of some flutter echo. I've got these acoustical tiles around the room. I've got 24 of them total, just randomly distributed so that they kind of offset each other. Those combined with the sofa and the furniture and all the random things in here, the curtains on the window, that all kind of works together to absorb some of the high frequencies and just make things sound less annoying. So it doesn't necessarily make them much quieter, and it definitely does not soundproof things in any way. It just makes it sound better. So let's hear what this kit sounds like. I'm just playing a groove here, and I recorded the audio with my phone so you can really see how it sounds in the room. I'm gonna start talking while I'm playing the groove here in a minute. You can tell how quiet these are if I just start talking while I'm playing. You can actually still hear my voice, which is pretty crazy. So that makes these really great for if you're teaching lessons. You can be talking to a student, or your student can be talking to you while you or they are playing. You don't even have to stop. I really can't play this setup at 3 a.m. If I play it in the middle of the night, the neighbors are gonna hear it unless they're just really sound sleepers, and so they're probably gonna notice the noise and they're gonna complain. But if I play it during the daytime, nobody cares. I'm in an apartment, and it's kind of a given that you're gonna hear your neighbors. I hear people walking around above me. My neighbors play music all the time, but these are just sounds that I hear during the daytime all the time. It's normal to hear your neighbors during the daytime, and even to play music during the daytime, and people are usually cool with that. It's kind of generally accepted that quiet hours are after maybe 9 p.m. and before 9 or 10 a.m. And so if you stick to that and just use common sense, if you're in an apartment, then you can probably not aggravate your neighbors and keep everybody happy. So that's about it for the setup. Up next week on part 2, we're going to talk about miking it and running these sounds through Logic, getting creative and doing some different processing on the drums, EQ, compression, reverb, to make them sound a little cooler, a little more musical and inspiring so that we can practice and actually hear cool stuff while we're playing. In part 3, we'll get really creative and do some different sound replacement options and just some really far out processing to make a really crazy, funky drum sound. So stay tuned for that. Next weekend and the weekend after, we'll be finishing up this 3-part series. Thanks everybody so much for watching. I will see you on the next video.